Hello and welcome to Somerset News Network. Now, I've been away for a while. I've had a couple of things happen. YouTube banned me for 6 months. As that was going on, I moved and I got my new office. And my computer, my PC, collapsed. Just gave up the ghost. I've had it for 15, 16 years, and I've replaced parts as they've broken. I've had 3 new hard drives. I've had a couple of new fans, a couple of DVD players, recorders, replaced. And the last thing I did was put a new power unit in. Now that lasted for a few years. And this was before lockdown. We had lockdown, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. And just using it to play around, watch YouTube videos and all the rest of it. My Facebook friends and talking to people all over the world. I love a computer. I love Facebook. I love talking to people that I've never met before. People who have the same ideas and people who have different ideas. I do like talking to them, but sometimes I wish they would learn a little bit about life. They seem to be lacking in education. But that's another story for another day. What I wanted to do today was, as you see, I got a clapperboard. That's for when I do my studio work and I do interviews, and I got 3 or 4 cameras. And I click on it, click, and I can then, with the editing packages, the click of the clapperboard, I can put in one line, and then all the videos are all lined up, and all I do is take out the bits that I want. It's quite simple, but it takes hours. You know, a half-hour video and an interview can take anything from 4 to 5 hours just to edit. And I'm not the expert, as if you watch my videos will know. I don't spend a lot of money on it. I haven't really been trained on it. I was trained on radio to do radio editing, and that was on 1/4-inch splice tape at the BBC, and that was interesting. And I took a ewer out and I did some interviews with that. I can do interviews. I'm not the best talking head like this, and I don't confess to be, but I think I've got something to say, and I'm gonna say it. Even if you don't agree with me, I'm going to say it. Now, like I said, this is our new location, and if you could turn the camera that way, you will see we have the church. That's a 13th century church, Norman church, in the village. And it's got real history. Next to it is a tide barn. Now, when it was run by the Roman Catholic Church, they took a tithe off people, a tax of 10% of their crop. So they would store the wheat in there. Now, they would all store it for the time when crops were bad, and if there was a surplus, they would sell it and make money. They were good businessmen, mind, back then, in the Middle Ages. So from being a tide barn, it then became the local school in around about the 1750s, 1760s, something like that. Knelsey was growing. Knelsey became a glass-making centre because Knelsey is built on sandstone. And in with the sandstone is coal. I don't know what quality coal, but originally they were bell mining for the coal, And then they sunk down, and one of the products that they had was all this sandstone. Melt sandstone, you get glass. And Nailsea glass is well sought after all over the world. The history of it is known. Bristol blue glass. Nailsea did different coloured glasses and made like blue bottles. I should say green bottles. The medicine bottles and that, and the beer bottles. So it was an industrial centre by the 1800s, and a coal mining area. They needed the coal in the glassworks to melt the sandstone to make the glass. They also needed lime. And in the hills either side of us is limestone. And there are hundreds of lime kilns. They would mine quarry the lime, crush it up, put it in a big chimney, put logs in, and burn it. And when you burn limestone, you get lime. That was for building most of the houses, also for fertilizer, and also for making the glass. So everything was geared up, and it was, although we're a rural area now, it must have been quite industrialised at the time. So that's where I live, and that's the church, and I've lived here all my life. I did live a mile away in my grandfather's house, but now we've come back here and we've got our own house. I've got my own office, and I'm not going to say it's the best office. I'm not going to say, but I can set myself up, and I'm going to make it into a little studio where we can chat and talk, and I'll give you some history. We'll talk about my way of thinking. I'm not going to say I'm right, but I think I am. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to other YouTubers. What do they think? What makes them do podcasts? What do they like talking about? And what are their views? Now, I was going to do a podcast on a friend of mine from Australia called Steve Lee. Now, Steve Lee had a family band. They had a coach and they would tour Australia. I think there's still YouTube videos about it. And I emailed him and asked him if I could use one of his songs for one of my videos. He said yes. And anyway, last month, he was over here, and I got a Facebook message. I'm in the UK, can we meet up? Yeah, no problem. Where and when? So he's north up in Cumbria somewhere. I'm down south near Bristol. And we said, well, what are we going to do? Where are we going to meet? Wow. Liverpool is in the middle. So him being a musician and me, I'm interested in music as well. I used to play in a folk band, used to play guitar, used to do discos. And I thought, yeah, let's meet in and do the Beatles tour. So we had a weekend. We had 3 days in Liverpool, and we had a great time. On Saturday night, we went down to the tavern. The cavern is called, the cavern, where the Beatles played. And there's statues of John Lennon, and there's a statue being put there, Eleanor Rigby, on a stool, a cast statue, a bronze statue of Eleanor Rigby. And that was done by Tommy Steele. Now, he'd done Half a Sixpence, the singer, dancer, artist, film star. It was rock star in his day in the 60s. And that was his tribute to the Beatles. What a nightlife. Liverpool was out on the town on Saturday night. There was music out of every pub. I was trying to look for a place to interview Steve to have a chat. We'll find somewhere quiet and have a chat. Could we? No way. We went to the tavern. I put loads of photographs on here. So the next day, on the Sunday morning, we went down to what was called the Beatles story, the Beatles Museum, which is down on the Edinburgh docks, which is right on the docks of Liverpool. Now, in the old warehouses downstairs, they've converted the cellar of the warehouse into a tour, and you go round, you zigzag round the cellar of this warehouse, and they tell you the Beatles stories from start to their solo years and finish. Absolutely fascinating. If you get a chance to go to Liverpool and you get a chance to go and see the Beatles story in the Albert Dock, do it. We've heard stories back from the other Beatles museums and they have not been favourable. That is the one to go to. Starts off as the Skittle group, the Quarrymen, and they got the lorry in there that they were on, and the guitars and banjos that they played. They then go on to the Hamburg years and playing in Germany. They then go through to meeting Brian Epstein and meeting George Martin and recording their first records, 1962, in London, in Abbey Road, which obviously is full of Beatle history. And it then goes through, like the albums, it goes through the early years, the films, Help and Hard Day's Night, the films. Then it goes through Rubber Soul, and then it goes through the Sgt. Pepper era and the psychedelic era. Then the White Album, and then the two albums at the end, which are Let It Be and Abbey Road, and it goes through them all. Then you've got 4 sections then after that of John, Paul, George and Ringo, of their solo years, and it goes through. And you have headphones. Everybody has headphones, and you press the number on like a mobile phone. You press the number, and then it tells you the story, and every exhibit is numbered. So you press the number. If you want to hear it again, you just press it again, so you get a second chance to hear it. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it. When we came out and we went into the cafe and we got a drink, on the podium, there's a little stage there, and on the podium was John Lennon's sister. Incredible. Just speaking to the crowd about John Lennon and the Beatles. Wow. I'm a Beatles fan. I absolutely loved it. Anyway, the other story I want to tell you about Steve Lee is, I wasn't sure whether he was liking it or not. I'd arranged it and sorted it out and thought, well, have I done the right thing? Anyway, in the end, we got to the cavern, and it was busy and everything else. And he said, is it all right if I go down? I said, yeah, you go down. I don't want to go down. I'm a bit claustrophobic and don't think I can manage the stairs. Because I'm not walking too good these days. So I said, no, you go down. So anyway, he went down, he came back, he had a smile on his face, and he said, I get it. I get it. And I said, oh, brilliant. He said, yeah, I'm glad I came, absolutely enjoyed it. So I'm glad it came off all right. I was a bit worried, but once we'd done the museum and got round, we got on great. So I'll put some, like I said, you should be seeing photographs of me, Steve Lee, my wife, his wife, all around Liverpool, all around the Beatles exhibitions, touring the Beatles sites. And if you get a chance to go, you have to go. It is brilliant, especially if you're a Beatles fan. Now, that's it for this one. I've shown you my new studio. I've told you my little story about Steve Lee. If you want to know more about Steve Lee, go on to YouTube, type in Steve Lee, then after that type I Like Guns. And you'll see all his videos. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Lovely folk band. And I think it's brilliant stuff he's done. I like it. I'm a folky at heart. Beatles fan and folky, me. So anyway, this is Ian, starting a new studio, hoping to do more interactions, and I hope that YouTube doesn't ban me again. But I didn't get a total ban, only 6 months.